What's going on, everybody? It's Frito here for your Overwatch, this time to give you a guide on Zarya, who we consider to be one of the most difficult heroes to master in all of Overwatch. But no need to fear, because Frito is here, and I'll try my best to explain the nuances of her character in order to allow you to practice and maximize her ability, just as I think I have started to reach myself. Now, Zarya's got a lot of things to do in her kit, so let's start off with the simplest. Her attack is a beam, which gives you a lot of reliable damage, and as long as you have decent tracking aim, you're going to be able to do quite a bit of DPS if you can land your shields, which we'll get to in a second. Her projectile alternate fire is incredibly powerful. It does a good splash damage, and especially if you have high charge, you can really melt the opposition. However, it uses way more ammo than your primary attack is going to. So there's two ways that you can go about this. You can focus on using her alternate fire only when she's at a distance or at a weird angle, like spamming around corners like I am here, or when you are about to be out of ammo, because a cute little trick that you can do, if you go down to, say, 1 ammo left in your weapon, you can still alternate fire. So you could theoretically shoot 99% with your primary fire, and then as you're backing off, getting ready to reload, you can blast off 1 alternate fire volley from afar in order to kind of increase your productivity, if you will. Now, shielding is the main part of Zarya. I know shooting is fun, but shield timing is more important. So we're going to look at this play of the game, which I set up a graviton surge on the entire enemy team and shield time perfectly onto our Genji. As soon as he turns the corner, has the chance to take damage, I'm shielding him. Now, there's different strategies to this. Theoretically, I could have even waited a bit longer, as it's best to allow your team to engage in a fight, have the enemy team focused and determined on killing them, because especially as a character gets lower on HP, they're going to get called out. They're going to say that character's low, so the enemy team's going to try to focus them. That is the ideal time to drop a shield. Because we were doing an ult stack, I just didn't want any chances of shenanigans of him dying with his ult in his hand, so I dropped it immediately. He got behind them, was able to slay them up, filet mignon in the graviton surge, and it all worked out. That is what you want to focus on. Getting charge is important, right? So you can drop shields either on yourself or on your teammates. If it looks like the enemy is spamming in a direction, you get some free charge that way. That's good. No harm, no foul. But what's really important is to hit the timings and to hold it, actually. Oftentimes with abilities on Overwatch, I think people think if they don't use it, they're wasting it. But that's not the case with Zarya shields at all, because really, because the cooldown is so long, if you do use it, and then in a second or two later you need it, then all of a sudden you just lost all that value, right? It might feel weird to have that restraint all the time and to hold off on shielding teammates, but you really need to learn it, because until your team is actually committing to a fight, the Zarya shields might not get any value, because if you're playing a little poke game and your teammates are playing skittish and too pokey, they're not going to commit to the fight enough to get the value of the Zarya shield to allow you to snowball in the first place. So, long story short, I find that Zarya works best actually with 2 types of teammates. Either one, some of my friends who are good at exploiting openings, for instance, like Liam's Genji, or we have a friend Tuco who plays Rhine and will look for a charge timing and go for it. When you have teammates that know how to explode in playmaking ability, and you're good at timing those shields, you will save them, bail them out, but also enable them to have the freedom to make those plays. When I've played in solo queue, however, and it seems like every teammate is waiting for the other teammate to go in, then a little bit trickier. And in that scenario, I find that Zarya is probably a bad pick. But if you're playing with teammates oftentimes that pick, let's say, some of the fun characters that may not always be the best choice for them personally, Genji, Reaper, Tracer, things that want to go in and get a bunch of frags and have a lot of fun, Zarya is the backbone to characters who play aggressive like that. Characters that want to jump in the enemy team's face. And even if you're playing with teammates that are a bit too dive heavy, Zarya can utilize that dive mentality in order to capitalize on that positioning. Zarya synchronizes better with a team that wants to play more aggressively, or at least either knows how to do so or just wants to get in fights. That's going to help you. Now, if your team's a little too slow and static, it might even be hard to find that. If you have a more ranged setup, for instance, Widowmaker, which isn't in the meta anymore, so I don't know why I'm using it as an example, but if you have characters that are further at range, like a Bastion behind a Rhine Shield, Widowmaker, things that are trying to play from afar to pick things off, Zarya is not going to synergize well with them. What she does well with is characters that want to go in, because as I'm sure you know, it's infuriating to be trying to play at close range, just have a bubble shield pop in your face. That's an instant 200 HP for the next 2 seconds. If you shoot it, Zarya gets stronger, but if you don't shoot it, then you might not finish off that crucial frag that's right in front of you. With impeccable timing, you can keep putting the enemy team in a no-win situation, which is great for Overwatch because oftentimes everything feels counterable. Honestly, this is one character that if synergized properly, you can't talk about counters, really. Nothing counters perfectly placed Zarya's shields. The only thing I would say is a counter is the fact that there's single pick in competitive play, and if you're using Zarya as a tank, you might have weak spots elsewhere, but really Zarya is more of a synergy pick than a straight up counter pick. If you're utilizing her in conjunction with teammates that are active in fights, or you save them from Roadhog hooks or whatever, she's just going to have value. There's no other way to say it. And her ult's really good, making her kit something that has never died in the metagame. She's always had a presence. More so, I think she does good to support a fast team against an opposing team that wants to do burst damage. What do I mean by that? Well, though because she's a tank, she doesn't want to fight Reaper necessarily, but if the opposing team has a Reaper and say you have a Tracer, all of a sudden you could drop a shield on the Tracer at a moment's notice, and if Reaper accidentally shoots with his massive burst damage shotguns, then you're going to get a lot of value in charge. Same thing with Roadhog. He's got a shotgun, he wants to hook you in, shoot you instantly and kill you. Well, if you drop a bubble shield as he does that, he loses all that value and momentum, but also you're going to gain value and snowball your power. I also don't think she's excellent against flankers necessarily, because Tracer can blink away when a shield gets popped, then blink back in order to deal her damage. And though Zarya can shoot through the Genji reflect, she's not as reliable at honing in on him as, say, a Winston or a Roadhog hook. So all things considered, the only things that are really Zarya weaknesses or counters is the opportunity cost of not picking a hero which has a kit that's a bit more weighted in ability. Zarya is a bit more general purpose, whereas Winston is way faster, has initiation and speed, and Roadhog has better crowd control and burst damage. Zarya is a bit more middle of the road in that way. But if you learn all these timings, I think then you're ready to really master her arced projectile fire. That's what took me the longest. And though I would say it's not the most relevant to being good as Zarya, it'll definitely put you over the edge to be great if you can build up your charge to max and land her bombs at range, which makes her almost like a ground-based Pharah in a way. The capability is there, and maybe I'll make a separate video on how to time these projectiles because I think they're the hardest in the game. They don't go straight, they have an arc, they move incredibly slow, and they don't do as much damage as the other explosive ones in the game. So maybe for next time. But for now, I've been Frito for Your Overwatch. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please hit the like button. Leave me comments below. Our channel's been doing fairly well, which is a good complaint to have, but it's hard for me to keep up with all the comments nowadays, but I do try my best to go through them, and especially if you leave a thought-provoking one, I'll respond. Be sure to always leave in the comments things that you want us to cover. We have a long list of things that we're trying to get through. Day by day, we'll get there. We are listening to you, and we want your feedback. So please, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Share it around with your friends who play the game. I've been Frito for Your Overwatch, and I'll see you guys next time.